Hi, everyone. This is Serena Sun, founder and director of Breaking Taboo. Welcome to our audio video podcast. Today, I am looking forward to having a conversation with Sadie, who calls herself Sober Sadie, because she is a recovered alcoholic, recovered alcoholic. We can talk a little bit about that. And she has decided to live her life completely sober, right?
That's
So
right.
yeah, and I know that alcoholism and addiction are some
Mhm.
very common mental health issues that people often struggle with. So I'm very excited to hear about your experiences and see if we can draw some inspiration from where you were before to where you
Mhm.
are today. So how does that sound, Sadie?
That sounds absolutely wonderful. Thank you for having me here. This is so wonderful. It actually is. This is kind of exciting for me. It's my 995th day sober. And
Wow.
usually I don't count every single day, but it's just kind of like this whole week has just been absolutely incredible. It's been such a great week. I just launched a website yesterday and it's sobersadie.com, which is very exciting.
That's
Um,
awesome. What's it
but
about?
it's a blog and it's about my experiences getting sober and just being a mother who's just living the alcohol free life. So that's
Cool.
yeah, and I mean like my 1000 days is on Sunday, which is unbelievable. I never ever thought I would be where I am today.
Hmm.
When I first started this
Congratulations.
journey, thank you so much. When I first started this journey, I just wasn't really expecting, I didn't know what I was expecting. I just I kind of wanted to take a break from drinking and I never really intended to go that far with it.
Hmm.
But like the more days that I went, the more I got addicted to counting the days. Like I was just like, wow, this is so great. I've made it to 5 days and I want to keep going. And I loved that feeling of success that I was continuously getting every single day. So that helped a lot with any of my cravings that I was having. And it kind of like changed my entire life as I knew it. So
I think that's actually a good tactic. That's actually good to hear that what helped you stay sober is counting the days and being excited about
yeah.
every day that you were sober. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's a great
absolutely.
takeaway. So when did you ever, I remember us talking about this before, but like, was it difficult for you to realize that you had a problem? I mean, what were all the things that led to you realizing that you didn't want to drink anymore?
Well, it was kind of a long line. Like there was a lot of things that happened in order for me to kind of realize that I had a problem. And it wasn't something that anybody could have shown me beforehand. It was something that I had to find out myself because like actually when I was I think I was about 18 years old, somebody had told me like, look, I've seen the way that you're drinking and I really think that like at 18 you've got a drinking problem, like you might like just be careful. And I took it, I was offended by that. Like I was like what do you know, you don't know me. And like it was my cousin who said that. And like
How were you drinking at the age of 18?
I well, because I'm in Canada, so
Hmm.
legal drinking is 19. I
Oh,
actually started drinking when I was 16. So I started drinking when my brother passed away of cancer. And like I, as a way of coping, I didn't really know, it was my first time that I'd experienced death. And I really didn't know how to handle it. I felt alone beforehand. And I mean, after it was devastating. I was completely devastated. And this is such a new feeling for me that I just drank. And
mm,
at the time, I had a lot of people who were a little bit older than me. And so they would kind of like, they were drinking buddies. Like they were 19 and they would buy the alcohol and I would just go hang out with them. And, like that was kind of like my group. And I beforehand, I guess I felt very insecure, and I was just, alcohol was just like what made me comfortable in my own skin. It made me more like, I felt like I was beautiful. I felt like I was like just who I wanted to be with alcohol. And
Mhm.
so my cousin told me that I had a drinking problem, and here I was like feeling so beautiful every time that I drank, and I'm feeling like the person that I was supposed to be, when in reality I wasn't. Like, I was becoming just like a completely different person from who I am. Like, I it just it but I mean, like, going from that, it just continued. Like, like throughout my life, I stopped drinking when I was 27, almost 28. So like there was still like a long time before I stopped drinking. And honestly, it just it got a little bit better when I got a job, and I lived on my own, and I was like paying my bills, and I was feeling very, adult. And
Mhm.
so my drinking kind of stopped at that point. But then it started up again, and then I lost my job. I moved to a different city to go to school, and then I failed my course because of drinking, and then it just plummeted. I just plummeted, and just I lost myself. I completely wasn't me anymore, and I it, even then I was still drinking. And it wasn't until the like I had a baby. I had like my son in 2015 or 2016. So that I quit drinking because I was pregnant with him. But like the entire time I was like just anticipating going back to drinking. Like the whole time that I was pregnant with him, I was just like, oh, I can't wait till I can drink again, because I just
Oh.
wanted to go right back to it. And once he was born, I went right back to it. So then I, went back into the cycle. And yeah, it wasn't until he was a year and a half that I was just kind of like, wow, maybe I should stop drinking. Maybe this is kind of a problem. And then that's when I took a break. And it honestly wasn't until, I guess, like more recently, that I really realized that most of the darkness that had been brought into my life was my own drinking that was doing it. Like, alcohol just like led me down paths that I wouldn't have gone down if I hadn't been drinking. So
Mm.
it was just it I wouldn't say that it ruined my life, because I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't been that way. But like, it made things so much darker than it needed to be, and it
Mm.
just brought me down to a level that I shouldn't have ever been. And now that I'm sober, I'm so happy and just so full of life again. And I'm me again. Like, I
Mhm.
honestly, I just feel at peace in a way. I mean, I
Yeah.
get sad, but like, it's nothing like how I felt before. Like, it's a whole it's emotions that I should be feeling instead of trying to numb them. So
I see.
it's
So yeah, thank you for sharing all of that, your journey, from the beginning until
yeah.
getting sober. And there's
Mhm.
a lot in there, brings up a lot of questions that I have for you. First of all, being you keep mentioning, who you really are and who you
Mhm.
are today. And so what did you notice? Who were you when you drank? Because when you said, so first of all, I want to point out that when you first started drinking, you said that the traits were positive traits, like it made you feel
Mhm.
more beautiful and made you feel yada yada.
Yeah.
So who were you when you drank, the good and the bad?
Right.
And who are you without, like, being sober? Who are you
Yeah.
today? Hmm.
So when I was drinking, the reason why I loved drinking so much was because it made me outgoing. And I felt like at the time I was very, very insecure with myself, and insecure with like I felt very lonely, and drinking made me feel like I wasn't lonely, and drinking made me feel like I belonged in a group, whereas when I was sober, I didn't feel that belonging. I felt very lonely, even in my family. I lived with my mom and my brother, and they just had a relationship that they didn't have to work hard at. They just it was a beautiful relationship. But I just felt like an outsider my entire life. I felt like an outsider. And so, I mean, compared like in my family, and like we moved, so like there's like we moved to a new town, and I didn't know anybody, and people like kids are mean. Kids are
Mm-hmm.
very mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was just a lot of like insecurities that I had, and I think that alcohol kind of made them go away, at least for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least just kind of like numbed them. But
Mm-hmm.
then I mean, it just made it brought out a a person in me that was just not not good spirited. Like I
Oh, interesting.
it just it turned me into a very negative person. And I mean, alcohol is a depressant. It made me very depressed. And not just like when I was drinking it, but also when I was, you know, completely sober. Like it brought me anxiety when I wasn't drinking, so that I felt like I needed alcohol in order to cope.
Because you had become so dependent on it that
Yes.
without it you became anxious.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
okay. And yeah, and who are you now? Like who are you really?
So now I think I'm still learning. I'm honestly I'm still learning, because like this took such a huge portion of my life. It was almost 12 years of me drinking, that like I'm still learning who I am, and I'm seeing pictures of myself when I was younger, and I'm recognizing myself in these pictures. But like when I see pictures of myself even from like 6 years ago, it's scary, because I had gained weight. I like so much weight. I gained so much weight from drinking, and I was just a different person. Like it's hard to explain, because I just not drinking anymore has just like opened my eyes to who I really was and who I was becoming. And I think that like growing up with my father, like my father was an alcoholic. He actually quit drinking when I was 16. He
Oh.
didn't want his last conversation with my brother to be when he was blackout drunk. But
Oh.
like my father, like I have like one of my first memories is of him, like we were leaving the bar, and my brother was 10 at the time. I must have been about 6 years old. And my brother was telling him that no, we're not getting in the car with you because you're too drunk. We can't. So we walked all the way home. And that was like one of my first memories of my dad. Like that was my dad. And like
Mm.
my dad was always this drunk person that I never really knew. But and so I started becoming like that person. I was becoming that person for my own son, and I just had to snap out of it, because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be that person.
Is your dad sober now?
Yes, he is.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's,
Since
and
since you
so
were 16, he is sober?
yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So
Cool.
he's actually a huge inspiration for me. He actually helped me a lot um come to terms with my own alcoholism. With I mean, like his father drank and he drank, and it's nice to have somebody who has been through the same kind of experience, especially in your family. It's just really nice to have somebody to talk with and understand everything. So he's
Wow, yeah, and you're definitely lucky in that sense
absolutely.
because yeah, there's you don't know how many times I've heard the story go the other way where
Yes,
family members don't understand or aren't supportive or you
absolutely.
know kick their kids out or whatever
For sure.
because they think that they just can't control, they think it's a matter of willpower, a matter of control and their kid is weak or they don't want to do it or
Hmm.
whatever, there's all these thoughts that really like when you look at the psychology of addiction and just your own experiences going through it, which brings up another topic I really want to talk about, which is the actual feeling of addiction when you're
Hmm.
actually going through that. Like people don't understand what it actually feels like. They really have a hard time comprehending why
Right.
someone can't just stop. Like,
Hmm.
why can't they just stop? Hey, if you
Yeah.
don't want to do it, why don't you just
Don't do
stop?
it.
Yeah, just
Yes.
don't do it. So, what's up with that? Like, what was it like with you? Like, can you imagine your life before when you were addicted to alcohol? What if somebody told you to just stop? Or were there periods where you wanted to stop and you couldn't stop? Like, what is that like to be in that?
Absolutely. So it's extremely difficult, especially because you've got like this urge, this constant urge telling you to drink, and like, regardless of if you've had a good day or a bad day, you want to have that drink after.
Sorry, were you drinking every day? Because also alcoholism looks different for
For everyone.
everyone. Yeah. So,
Absolutely. I was, so if I wasn't drinking every day, I would make up for it on the weekend. But like after my son was born, I was drinking. I was a stay-at-home mom and I just drank. Like that's all I did. Like that's all I wanted to do. And like actually even before he was born, now that I think about it, we drank every day. And it was just so much, it's so much money. It's so expensive just to like feed this habit. And like
mm-hmm.
that
Did
was,
you
I
have a
guess,
specific type of alcohol that you would go to, or was it like
oh
anything?
man. We basically went from, we drank a lot of beer.
Who's we?
My fiance and I, like we,
Oh, okay. So he
like
would drink
both of
with
us.
you
Yes, absolutely.
all the
Which
time.
was all the time. And
Oh.
like he has been so incredible. He has been so supportive because before I quit, we were talking about it, and I mean it was a topic of discussion a lot because it got to the point where it was like, okay, this is like we're spending a lot of money and like this isn't really fair. Like I wouldn't even, there's some days where I wouldn't even get out of bed, and like I would have like my son crawling all over me, and I would be down all
Why?
day
Because
because
you're hungover?
yeah, and
Okay.
like
So
it would
usually
just,
when you drink, it wouldn't be like one or two beers
oh
or whatever. It
no,
would
it would,
be until the
yeah,
point that you got drunk.
yes, absolutely.
Really drunk? Or like, was there like,
Oh,
could you cut it
like
off? Or was
no,
it?
there was no cutting it off. It honestly, it was like as soon as I had one, it game over. Like there was no stopping. So it would be like beer, wine. We did liquor for a little bit, but not super heavily into that. But like wine, especially near the end, ugh, I can't even like think about it now. Like it's but yeah, right.
You would just do it until the point you passed out, until
Yeah,
you got tired and you
absolutely.
passed out. But
Yeah,
what would
and
you, so interesting. So I mean, what was the appeal in that? Like what, like why did you and your husband, would you do things while you were
oh,
drunk
we
or
would so at the end we would play, like we're video gamers, we like to play video games, and we would play video games together, we would play like Call of Duty together, and then like throughout the night would just get worse and worse, obviously because we're more and more drunk, and we
you mean
just,
your score in the game would get worse and worse?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and our, you know, like we couldn't walk anymore, like
Oh,
I mean, like it honestly, it got to the point where, like most nights I would be blacked out. Like I would get blackout drunk.
what about your
Um,
husband? Did he have a problem with it too? Would he get blackout drunk?
so he would drink, like we would drink together,
Mm-hmm.
but there were some times where he would go to bed and then I would continue, or I, like we would go to bed together and I would still be drinking wine, like I would have wine beside me, and like that was just the norm. Like we had like a wine store right down the street from us, and
Mm-hmm.
that was like a regular stop. Like that was, we were constantly there, we were the regulars, like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
And
just,
but he didn't, did he have a problem with it or no?
so he I guess like he kind of did, but not to the extent that I did. And he knew that I had a problem with it, but I think it was mostly he was drinking so that he could hang out with me, like spend time
Mm-hmm.
with me, because that's what I wanted to do. So
Mm-hmm.
but he's amazing. He's very like fortunate that he doesn't have the same kind of addictive qualities as I do, I guess. But he when I
It's,
decided to
mhm.
quit, he just was like, okay, we're done, like we're both doing this. Like he was just so supportive, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without him. Like I wouldn't have been able to quit like I did. Like
Mhm. So he doesn't drink anymore either.
no, he doesn't. And I mean, like once in a while he will, if there's like, if we have people over, for example, but like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? It's not like he's not allowed. Like he can if he wants to, but he just doesn't want to anymore. Like he doesn't really see the value of it
Mm-hmm.
because it just, it makes him feel sick. Like after like he gets like hangovers like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
and it's just not a great way of spending time, spending money, like spending anything. So
Right, right. But when he does drink, like nowadays, is he able to stop?
oh yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
He
I
is
think that's like
he
one of the
yeah.
defining attributes of of alcoholism, or whether
Mhm.
you are or not. That's one of the characteristics, is if you have a hard time stopping once you start.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
so.
And for me, like, no question, like, there's no stopping. Like, yeah, there's,
And why is that? Like looking back on it, why do you think that is? Like,
I honestly, I don't even, I feel like it's like,
were
cause
you
my,
chasing something?
I don't even know, like, my dad, like, it was always just like a craving for more. I always, like, as soon as I drank it like water, and I just always wanted more. Like, I was so thirsty, but my body was telling me that I needed water. And
No.
I never drank water back then. Like, I drink water like crazy now. But like when I was drinking it, the only time I really drank water was like when I was hungover. So I
Mm.
was never like hydrated, but like I drank so much and so quickly too. Like, yeah, it's just crazy.
So when you were drinking a lot,
Mhm.
did you think of yourself as having a problem, or no?
I honestly, there would be times where I would wake up and I immediately would be like, wow, like just this feeling of dread, like not even knowing why I felt guilty or like just bad, but like just a feeling of like, wow, something may have happened last night and I don't really know what it was.
Mm.
But I like if Nick like told me like, oh yeah, this is what you did, like for
Would you
example,
do like horrible things or something,
oh
or?
man, yeah, like there was times where I would do things that I just I but the thing is that like he would tell me these things and I would just kind of like shut down and be like, no, that like that was a different me. Like that wasn't really me. Like this is like who I am now is me, but like that was just like somebody else and I had no memory of it. So it was easier for me to pretend like it didn't happen.
Oh, it was kind of like, was it like blame it on the alcohol
Yeah.
type thing, like the song? It's like
Yes, exactly. Like
interesting.
but
Hmm.
it was there was no because of that there was no taking responsibility for my actions
Hmm.
obviously, and there was
Hmm.
no growth. Like I was not growing during this time because like there you learn from your mistakes that you remember making, but
Right.
like
Oh, I
I
see.
didn't
Right. Yeah.
I had no recollection of the mistakes that I made, so I was just kind of like going blindly into situations like just oh well whatever, like it wasn't, I didn't do it, it was the alcohol, exactly, blame it on the alcohol.
Hmm.
But like
Hmm.
yeah, I mean there was one time when I first started dating Nick. We went to Niagara Falls with his family and it was like we went to like this nice dinner. Like I don't even remember, I honestly have no recollection of it, but I just completely embarrassed myself, and like still to this day I'm so embarrassed that I because this is like these are my in-laws now, like this is
Right.
my family, these are my people now. And I'm
Hmm.
still just like so like there's shame, like it's
But you don't remember, like, you know that you embarrass yourself, but you don't remember like how you
yeah,
embarrass
I
yourself.
mean
I
like
see.
Nick will tell me like little bits and pieces of what I've done every night kind of thing, but I mean
Right.
like he did, but
Hmm.
it's just like it's shameful, and it's yeah, it's embarrassing because I'm not that person at all, and there were so many things that I
Hmm.
apparently did that I would
Right.
never do if I was sober, and like yeah, so it's just
Right. It doesn't fit in with your identity. It's like cognitive dissonance is, yeah. And also,
yes,
I'm sure it's
exactly.
bewildering to not know what
Hmm.
happened, all the
Yep,
time. Like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely scary, it sounds like a scary experience.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
terrifying. I remember there's this one time that I came to, like I was walking down the street and I I just like woke up walking down the street. I didn't have any shoes. Like I
Oh.
drank a ton of wine before, and I have no idea like what happened the night before, like none. And like just like that's terrifying. That's
Were you
not,
told?
like
Did you ever figure that night out?
no. All I know is there's like a cab like down the street, so I just like got into it and went home. This is when I was like I think I was like 19 or 20 at that point.
Uh-huh.
But
Good
like
thing you had
just
you
so
had your purse
scary.
and everything with you, and you
Yeah,
could
I
pay for the cab ride. Like, what
yes.
if you got mugged or something?
Oh,
Like,
exactly. Like but it's just like just having that like just that loss of control is so scary because it's like and that's what it was like it was just like I like right now I love being in control like me
mhm,
sober and I think that that's like a huge thing that I'm so proud of is just being in complete control of myself and like knowing how to like I can't control the world around me but I can control how I act and I think that
mhm,
that's just really empowering.
mhm, mhm,
However, like as an alcoholic, I couldn't control anything. I couldn't control what I did. I couldn't I couldn't do anything. Like so I feel like I've in sobriety I've gained power.
mhm. Oh yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And I also wanted to touch on when you said that you lost your job
Mhm.
and something else with a test, right? That uh
My I took a course.
Oh, to the
So
course. Okay. Yeah. So I want to touch upon it because people hear of that stuff all the time. Like,
mhm,
but okay, so people think, okay, if you're addicted to heroin, it makes sense for you to lose your job, but it's
right.
really difficult sometimes for people to imagine, especially given looking at you, Sadie, like you seem obviously now like a normal, happy, right? Mother, wife, whatever. So people have a hard time comprehending how that's
Mhm.
possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, so how did that happen? Like, how is it possible to lose your job because you go home and drink, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it got to the point where like I remember like I almost like was sick. I was hungover. And I had a retail job. I was hungover, like so hungover that I almost like threw up on a customer. Like
Oh,
I was in the midst of like talking to them and I was like swaying and I felt so sick. I didn't throw up on them, but like it's scary. Like you just you don't even realize the power that alcohol has over you when you're showing up to work like a little bit late every day, like later every single day, and you're just kind of like anticipating going home so that you can continue the cycle. um
right,
but it
right.
was like it got to the point where instead of having goals, instead of having like oh like I want to get a promotion, I want to succeed in my job, I want to get drunk, I want to do this instead, I don't care about my dreams, I just want to like feel better now, like or
Mhm,
better but not actually better. Like
mhm.
it's like yeah, it's a hard cycle to break because like when you yeah, like I said before, like it's just like when you have a good day you want to drink, when you have a bad day you want to drink. So
Mhm, mhm. And is that like what addiction is like for people is just just the inability or to care about anything else except for like besides the next fix or like the next
yeah,
time you're gonna do something.
I mean certainly for me it was, I mean I don't speak for
Right,
everybody,
right.
but like for me my addiction, it just like it made
It's
it so that
overpowering for
it
sure.
is
Yeah.
overpowering. And that's what made me like as soon as I have one drink it was like goodbye night, like that was it, like
And that's probably because it's triggering in your brain. Your brain recognizes it as learning that, oh, this is my reward, this is my
yes,
dopamine. So you're,
yep,
and basically, psychological, standpoint, what you're saying,
hmm
it's like you're in addiction. You don't care about the other stuff because your dopamine is getting the reward. It's getting,
Exactly.
instead of getting the reward with goals, it's getting the reward with what is in front of you right now, which
Exactly.
is your alcohol or whatever it is. So your brain doesn't need that. So literally it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't need this other stuff. I'm perfectly fine. Once I
Yeah.
get this, I'm happy. Like once I get
Yeah.
this, I'm like, my reward is good. And that's
Yeah.
just what our brain is tricking us into thinking,
Absolutely. And it's
yeah.
like good enough for now instead of good enough forever, like it's a very short-term fix for instead of what it should be as, like you should be achieving your goals.
But when you're drunk, you don't even think about that stuff,
No,
obviously,
exactly.
it's
Like
like,
well,
yeah.
I mean, there's like I remember there's a test. I had a test in it was, I think it was like math or something, and I'm terrible at math. I can't stand it. But
Me too.
um
Same.
I was I remember like sitting, I when I was in college, I was working at the college bar there.
Mhm.
And I just remember like sitting at the bar being like, okay, so I could have a drink or I could go home and like study for this test. And I was just like, well, I'm definitely not going to go home and study for this test. Like, are you
Uh,
serious? Like hell no. But yeah, now I'm like, I mean, it's
well, I mean, it's understandable because society and the media tends to reward that.
oh man, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, who, like, there's, out of all the stories that talk about kids who go home and study or, like
Hmm.
sit in front of their
Oh
books,
yeah,
there's
they're
like,
just like lame or whatever, but like,
right, right. And there's like, 10 more movies that are talking about, going out to party or the rebel or
oh
the,
man,
the like drinking or,
yeah,
the fraternity life, the sorority life, the like, like all these
absolutely,
major parties. Like those are the ones that get attention. Those are the things that
absolutely,
people want to watch on TV. So I
for
think it
sure,
kind of instills in us that that's what we're supposed to do.
for
That's how
sure,
we live a good life. That's how, that's what life is supposed to be about. That's how
yeah.
fun, so it's not, I'm just saying because, for people out there who may be struggling, like it's don't be too hard on yourself because you're
Hmm.
literally living in a society that is rewarding
Normalizing
this
it,
already. Yeah,
yeah,
normalizing it and
exactly.
rewarding it even in
Oh man,
society.
absolutely. And there's so many shows that like Modern Family I was watching, they just glamorize like the mom in that show drinks all the time, and they
Does she?
always like it's like a joke, like it's a constant running joke about how like, oh, she's, she needs a drink, blah blah, like whatever. But it's just
Mhm.
like every single episode is just, and like this is the norm, like this is
Mhm.
like,
I
you're
think about that
celebrating.
sometimes too. Yeah, I see that in movies now that you mention it. I definitely notice that where
Oh
any little
man.
thing, yeah, they're like, oh, I need a drink. Oh, I need a drink.
Yeah,
I need a drink. And it's a slippery slope
it
to
is.
say
Absolutely.
it's like slippery to have that mindset is like every time something goes wrong in your life, I need a
Yeah,
drink because then what happens is you end up relying on the drink. You think it's like the solution. It's
exactly.
like one plus one equals, two, but it's
Yeah.
really not. Like you don't need the other one,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
exactly. Like, and I think that that was like a huge thing for me, that I depended on alcohol so much throughout my life. Like my mom, she was diagnosed with aphasia when I was in 2014.
what is that?
So aphasia is a form of dementia.
Okay.
And so she was diagnosed in 2014, and that was like, it was like crazy. Like I was 24. I was that was like while I was working at the bar, like drinking all the time. And the way that I handled it was to drink more. So instead of, like processing like like it was like, okay, well, drink time. Like it's
Mhm.
instead of going to, like I look back at it like I should have like spent more time with her, because like she passed away in 2016. But instead of, like I shouldn't have been drinking, I should have been hanging out with her, because I should
Mm.
have been spending that time. But it's just like you don't even think about it, you don't think twice about it, because it's like that's the number one, like you're like alcohol comes first, that's like the first thing, that's like that's all you want. You feel sad, you drink. You feel happy, you drink. You feel scared that you're going to lose somebody, you drink. So it's like,
So what would you say to people who still think that it's a matter of choice and it's just like a matter of like a willpower and whether you're strong enough to you know,
mhm.
like I don't know, go sober or not?
Yeah, honestly, I guess I would just like say that it's a lot harder when it's, like you don't understand what somebody's going through. Like you don't really understand what addiction is if you think it's just like something that you can just, like it might be easy for you. It might be easy for somebody else to like just drink a beer and then that's it. But like for some people, it's like it's it's Ooh, I
Hmm.
just got chills. For some people, it's a lot more than just a beer. Like for some people, it's, it's the way that they want to live, or it's the way that they think they want to live. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's a lot harder than.
Yeah, and I think that there's also so much more there, like so much more in their background, their psychology, like what are they running away from? What are they trying to achieve? What are
Absolutely.
the insecurities there? What are the, pressure?
Yes.
What is the stress? Like there's so much.
Yeah.
I think like the way that I see addiction is you have to think of like what caused that addiction. Like that's
Yeah.
what people aren't really thinking of because it's not like it's very rare that someone just like, oh, they're just addicted because there's nothing that they're dealing with in life.
Yeah.
I think yeah, that's just, I can't even think of, I mean, I'm sure there's a yes to everything, but I can't think of a single person that I know or a single story that I have heard of where that's been the case, where
Yeah,
someone has not
absolutely.
had anything, no trauma, no problems in their life in
Oh my
general, right?
gosh. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think it's really, when people think of addiction, they need to take all of that into account. They need
For
to take
sure.
in the psychology of a person, the
Oh
background of
my
the
gosh, absolutely.
experiences of the person, and then also obviously neurologically, like their brains and what's going on there. And also you did mention again your dad, right,
Hmm.
was an alcoholic, so I do know that it runs in the family. Now,
Yes.
whether that's how much of it is genetic, they say it's genetic, but also it sounds like, it's obviously behavioral as well because if
For
you grew
sure.
up seeing your dad do something.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And
Hmm.
it's funny too because like the first like I guess the first 16 years of my life I was completely against alcohol because I had seen the effects of alcohol with my dad and I was like
I'm
I
going to tell
can't
you,
believe it.
sounds like me and smoking.
Really?
Oh yeah, smoking was a habit that I had to break, and like I still have a cigarette every now and then, and every time
Wow.
I do, like I'm still at the point where I'm like, well, I mean, for me, I kind of want to be at a point where I'm not fearful of it,
Right.
but I also, don't want it. But
Yeah.
sometimes, like, when I do drink, I might have like one or two and it's
Yeah.
fine. It doesn't make me, and that's how I know that I don't have an issue with it, is that it doesn't make me want to have any
For
more,
sure.
although
Yeah.
that's something that I'm working on as well, is
Right.
just totally not, because I do
Yeah.
100% feel much better without
Yes.
cigarettes.
I used to
But
smoke too actually. Like
yeah, a lot of
I
people smoke. And also talking about media and society. That's everywhere in the movies and TV shows, and
yes.
like,
Absolutely.
it's teaches you that it's just something to do when you're
For
stressed
sure.
out. Same thing, when you're
For
stressed out,
sure.
have a cigarette,
And it's
right?
also like it's viewed as like cool, like you're, like it looks cool. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
like, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so, yeah, it's,
Rebellious, like you're not a
yes,
square, you know
yeah,
what's up, it's like,
absolutely,
yeah, you live life a little, like all of that glamorizes like the
yeah,
act of smoking or drinking, in
for
your
sure.
case, or I'm sure a lot of other drugs as well, in
Hmm.
society. But I was gonna say, growing up, I definitely remember my dad smoking, and I used to hate it so much. I used to like make him, because you learn in school it's bad for you and like you
Yeah.
could die from. So I used to, for Christmas, I gave him like little books that I made that were like don't smoke, like anti-smoking
Oh,
books.
that's so funny.
Yeah, which of course, he like didn't, he was like, "Oh, what's this?" It's like, because that's, again, you don't tell, like, now I know, but like someone who's
Right.
addicted, you don't do that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you
Yeah,
can
for sure.
tell them all the thousand different reasons why. I'm sure they probably already know, but
Yeah,
it's more complicated than that. It's a lot more complicated.
absolutely.
But yeah, and then later in life, you know, it was just a
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's just a thing that people did, and I kind of started doing it. And at first, I wasn't addicted, and then I became addicted, and then
Right.
it became like the thing to do if you were creative or a musician or writer, which I am both, you know,
Yeah.
or if you had a stressful life, or if you were
Yeah.
up to a lot of things, or if you had a busy calendar, or if you were an entrepreneur or CEO, or it's just all these
Yeah.
things. It's like, oh, okay, that's like it helps, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
to break through, like, does it really help? Is
Yeah.
this really helping me? You know, that's like a
Mm-hmm.
big question to ask. Is this really helping me? Why the
Yeah.
heck am I even doing it? You know, like, what is it actually
Absolutely.
really giving me?
Yeah.
Like, really, what is it really giving me? You know, and how much of that is a lie?
Yeah, it's so true. And like that is exactly the same. Like it's exactly the same with alcohol. It's the same. I mean, as far as I know, like it's the same with any addiction. Like it's as far as like my own experience, very similar. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Well, I mean,
it's scary
alcohol,
though.
yeah, alcohol, unfortunately, I mean, they're both bad, but unfortunately, yeah, obviously with alcohol, you have to deal with hangovers
Oh
and
man.
not being able to do anything, and the dangers, like dangers of drunk driving and all of that.
Oh
Um,
man.
so, you know, back to what we were talking about with your life and your journey, once
Hmm.
you did realize that, and once you had your husband's support,
Yeah.
what did you do? Did you immediately go to AA? Did
No,
you?
actually, so I didn't use AA. I actually found, this is like crazy. I go on Reddit a lot and I found like this community on Reddit. It's stop drinking community.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and so I'd never heard of it before, but I started going on there, and even before I quit, like I was just kind of like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like maybe I should, and I started reading. I started reading all these people's all these different experiences, and I started really kind of like I mean, I saw things on there that really like spoke to me, I guess. And so
Mm-hmm.
it kind of inspired me. And then we went on vacation. So I stopped drinking for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then we went on vacation. Like Nick's family lives in Mexico. And so we went down to see them, and I started drinking back like again. And like I was drinking, I remember it was New Year's, and I was so drunk, and I just remember just being so upset and being like, this is why I don't want to drink anymore, because it's making me angry. It's turning me into a person that I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be. And I'm like, I'm done. Like when we get back to Canada, I don't want to do it anymore. And like that was the point that I was like, I already tried to quit before, and I know that this is what I want to do. I know that this is 100% the road that I want to go down, because I'm tired. I've lived I've lived in addiction, and I've not lived in sobriety. So I want to see where that road leads.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we got back, and we just like started purging. We got back, and our apartment was a disaster. Like we just decided enough was enough. We
Mm-hmm.
had to take control of our life,
Mm-hmm.
and we just started, yeah, we started purging. We my mom had a storage unit that we just like went through. Like we literally just like started purging our life with like
Mm-hmm.
everything, like alcohol. We started like just we just didn't want to live the way that we were living. And
Right.
I ended up, so I went back to school. I got my diploma. I got a better job because I had been a stay-at-home mom, and I started getting really antsy. And I think that that was like part of the problem. Was I wanted out. I wanted a break. I wanted to get away.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I love being a mother, but I just needed to be me. Like I just needed to find who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I um before quitting drinking, I never drove a car. I was always just like very anxious about driving.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the idea of driving was just like terrifying to me. But I ended up getting my license. I ended up like I got a better job, like the job that I'm working now, and like I just it was it was as if I just kind of like catapulted into a better life. Like it was just like quitting drinking was like what got it all started, and it was like
Yeah, yeah. So how easy was it? Was it super easy for you? I mean, or no? Did you suffer? Also, did you suffer from the shakes or any withdrawal symptoms that are typical of drinkers?
Um, I I don't think so. Like not that I can remember. I it was I think because we had decided, like, I had decided for myself that I didn't want to do it anymore. I mean, like, whenever I had cravings, I would drink kombucha. Like, kombucha was
Hmm.
like the best thing ever. Like, it was perfect because it was like bubbly and like, just like, yeah, just, and club soda, I guess, in like, just bubbly drinks were
Was this
like,
kind of like beer or champagne or?
it was like the perfect, like, yeah, like
Interesting.
instead of drinking wine, it was kombucha, like even in
It
a
was a good
wine glass,
substitute.
like it was the
Interesting.
perfect
Okay.
substitute. So
Okay.
I would drink that whenever I had a craving, and I mean, it really helped. It honestly, it helped so much. And then like, all we would do was like buy kombucha and like like we had a ton, but I mean, like, we were used to spending even more money on wine and on
Hmm.
beer, so like it was like nothing, it was like pennies.
So
But
do you go to AA
no,
now?
I
No. So you've
don't.
never gone to AA.
I never
Okay.
did.
Do you believe in AA? Because, some people don't believe in it. So.
Honestly, I feel like there is no right or wrong way to get sober. There's
Hmm.
no, I mean, everybody does things differently. Alcohol affects everybody differently, so I think sobriety is the same way.
Hmm.
Um
Hmm.
but I think that, like, I believe in AA if it works for some people, but like, it's not something like, my dad tried to do it, and he just said that it did not work for him. So like, and
Mm.
it's not to say that, like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it just because it doesn't work
One
for
person, yeah.
one person doesn't mean it doesn't, so.
Yeah, yeah. But okay, so when you first decided to quit, did you like doubt yourself, want to go back or have withdrawals or anything? Or I mean, it sounds like that was that.
I
That
think
you
that,
made a
like,
decision and that was that. Is that
so
correct?
I guess I'm a little headstrong because it got to it took a while to get to that point of where I was just like, enough is enough. But like, once I got there, I didn't want to go back. There
Hmm.
were some times where it'd be like, wow, I do miss it. I miss um like, just the experiences of like hanging out with people and having a beer. Like, I kind of miss that idea, like the concept, but I don't, like, because now I'm sober. I'm the sober person at the party, like, and that's just like, it's fun. I like being the sober person, and then I get to
What do
like
you
drive
like about it?
home.
What do you like
um
about it?
well, it's really funny because, like, I can kind of like point out who's blackout drunk, I guess. Like,
I was just wondering about that. Like, yeah, what is it? That was gonna be my next question. What is it like to see other people who are drunk, like from the other side?
oh man, it's an experience, that's for sure. Like, I feel like it's like my superpower. I'm like, I can tell. Like, I'm like, ooh, who in the room will not remember this moment? Um
Interesting.
yeah, like, we had a friend over a while ago, and they were blackout drunk. They got to the point where, like, and they're just swaying a little bit back and forth, and just like you could tell. But it's just, I remember being that person, and so like, now I know what signs to look for. Like,
Hmm.
I recognize myself as
Hmm.
blackout person, I guess. Like, I just
Yeah, yeah.
remember being that person. So it's
Interesting.
just, yeah, it's my superpower, I guess. That's,
That's cool. That's a great way of looking at it. I mean, it's
yeah.
yeah, something to
It's
look forward to for people who are recovering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and it's good because, like, I'm a mother of two children, and when they are older, it's gonna be, I
Mhm.
guess, I don't want to talk about. Oh, I don't want to say that they're gonna be drinking, but like, when they are drinking,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be able to tell that, you know, they're
Oh,
drunk.
that's funny. That is funny.
Like, I know. Oh, it's funny too because, like, Nick will have, like, if he does have a drink, I can smell it like immediately. I guess that's another thing because I'm just like, oh, like, you've been drinking, like.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's just like, I can tell, like, it's something that I can pick up on now that I'm not in that world anymore.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I've also noticed that you don't, well, you haven't yet, at least not with me, but you haven't called yourself an alcoholic or recovering alcoholic or anything. And also, I do understand that there are issues with that word as well, and it doesn't,
Mm.
and it's your own identity, of course. So do you identify with an alcoholic or no?
Honestly, I don't really think about it. Like I guess like I had a problem with drinking, and I think that that's it. Like I
Hmm.
don't really, I don't get offended by like the term alcoholic,
Hmm.
because like it's, I try not to, like it's, I had a problem with alcohol, so I
Hmm.
guess that makes me an alcoholic, but I don't really think about it all that much
Do you still
because
have a problem with alcohol? Like, would you say that you have a problem with alcohol? And I'll
yes.
tell you why. Okay, you do. You do.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
so yeah, so if you were ever to have a beer again, like you think it would just
Yes.
the same thing you wouldn't control. Okay. And the reason
100%.
why I ask is because this is why some people have a problem with the label of being an
Mhm.
alcoholic is because, and the same reason why some people have a problem with AA or don't believe in it is, the whole thing, like once you are forever. So once
Mm,
you're an alcoholic, it's like, day by day, every day, like once you are this thing, you are
right.
this forever. So therefore every day is like, a risk, or every day you have to, be wary of that or be careful or whatever,
Yeah.
so, and it works for a lot of people. However, I
Yeah.
also know of the opposite methods working for
Hmm.
people as well, where they don't subscribe to that mentality.
Right.
And so it's interesting. It's just interesting
Yeah.
to think about. Yeah.
Well, for me, like I know that like as it's scary. Like as a student, I know for a fact that like if I ever had one drink, it
It's
game
over.
over. It's
Yeah.
over. Like it's not even, but for me, like it's not even worth it. Like regardless of what happens in my life, like it's just not worth it. It's not worth throwing everything away. Like the house that I'm currently in, I would not be in had it, like if I had continued going down
Why do
the
you say
path.
that? Why? Why not?
Because I was able to actually like save money, and actually like I grew up because I stopped drinking. Like
Right.
I mean, we talked about before, like learning from your mistakes, and I wasn't learning, I wasn't growing before, but because I got sober, I was actually able to learn from my mistakes and actually deal with the problems that I used alcohol to kind of avoid.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I'm currently, yeah, I'm in a house that I would never have been in had it not been, I mean, if I was still drinking, I wouldn't. It's like that's why I'm so like I'm so sure that like just having one more drink would be like throwing it all away, because I
Hmm.
just know myself, and I got out of it, and I never want to go back.
And those problems that you were running away from or not wanting to deal with or coping, using alcohol to cope with, would you say, like, are you dealing with them now?
Well, I think a lot
Or
of
do
the,
they just go away over
they
time
didn't
or?
go away. Like I think a lot of the problem was like I felt very lonely. Like my childhood, I did feel very lonely, and I now I don't feel lonely because I have a family, and like I think that I there's just so many problems that just kind of like solved themselves because
Mhm.
of my sobriety. So I think that like my drinking just like made the problems worse. It made me push people away, and it made me kind of like be by myself. So
Mhm.
instead of like I was lonely, and I was drinking, and I was making myself even more lonely. So
I
like
see. I see.
fixing the drinking made me appreciate what I had. And I mean, when I quit drinking, I had my son, and now I've
Mhm.
got I've got my daughter now, and like I have Nick, and like I am so lucky to have them. I'm so happy and so lucky to have my family. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's
Thank you.
great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, really, really wonderful to hear. And you have two. I didn't know you had two.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can't feel lonely with that. I'm sure your days are
Oh my.
taken up full. Yeah.
If anything, it's I wish I had more time to
Right.
myself, but
Yeah, exactly. Now it's the opposite
yes,
problem.
exactly. Never lonely ever again.
Yeah. Awesome. So, okay, so with the remaining last few minutes we have left,
Yeah.
is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? Anything that we haven't touched upon that you'd like to share?
Honestly, I think that like I think we covered most of it, but I just think that like for anybody who's out there who is just feeling like they need just help in general, just reach out to somebody, because I think that like me feeling lonely, like I know that like it's like I was stubborn and I didn't want to reach out for help.
Mm.
But like there are so many tools that are available for people who are trying to overcome addiction, and I really think that yeah, just like use the tools that are available. And like honestly, like it, life is so much better when you're not drinking constantly, and like
Mm-hmm.
you're just so worthy of more than just drinking your life away. Like it's honestly just such a huge deal to, I don't know.
What
um
about for people who are not fully aware that they have a problem, or not, kind
mhm,
of like where you were before?
right,
Yeah, I think we talked about this too. It's coming back to me like during our our phone call, but
yeah,
yeah, there are so many people who it's like their normalcy, it's their normal way of
mhm,
life,
yeah,
and they may or may not realize that
right.
it's causing issues or linking it to alcohol. What would you say to them?
I guess like do some reading, do some research. Like I guess it's just so hard to like get in the mind of somebody who's kind of in denial, I
Well, how
guess.
about this? What would you have liked to tell yourself when you were in denial? Yeah, because you did
um
mention, I don't think during this podcast, but I remember now during the phone call, you said that you were in denial for years,
yeah,
right? So yeah,
absolutely.
what would you have liked to tell yourself that would have helped?
I don't know if I feel like I would have wanted to listen. Like instead of telling me anything, I feel like I would have wanted to listen to my issues instead of yeah, like just kind of like hear me out, I guess, because like whew, there were a lot of emotions, there were a lot of things that I was suppressing, but like yeah, I think that like you just listen, just
Stop
spend,
trying to numb it out and
yeah,
actually,
and listen
yeah.
to like what you're like, pay attention to what you're doing, and like yeah, just kind of snap out of it. It's hard, but it's so hard. It's hard to get to that point because but like I feel like as soon as you do get to that point, like as soon as you start to think that like, oh, maybe I do have something, like maybe I should think about it. I think that like, yeah, just talking to people is honestly like the on even on Instagram, like the sober community on there is just like so incredible. I've honestly been blown away. Like there's just so much support out there that for people who are struggling. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just
Yeah, I
very,
think people are starting to see that, these issues again that were so taboo before, right? It's
yes.
like actually aren't.
Yeah.
And of course, our intention is to make people realize that they don't have to be taboo at
Yeah,
all, and they
absolutely.
are
And
actually
it's
quite common. Yeah, I mean,
absolutely, it's not, yeah, like you said, it's not an uncommon thing. Like
yeah.
people just bonding with people who have been through the same kind of thing. Like we're hardened because of it, but we're like so supportive because we understand. And I think that that's like a huge that's just special. It's special to find a community that celebrates, you know, something like this, like
Mm-hmm.
addiction. Like it's like we're celebrated for the amount of days that we have not done our, I
Yeah.
mean, not, you know,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Well, yeah, yeah. Those are definitely great words of advice for anyone out there who's struggling. And I hope that we, throughout this podcast, have helped people understand. I
mhm,
really hope that. I hope that we have helped, you know, the communities out there
mhm,
feel like they do belong to, people out there who might not have a community,
mhm,
um, feel like there are places to go, and there is hope, obviously. And
absolutely.
you're definitely an inspiration, Sadie. Even I just find it like so interesting that your name, it rolls off the tongue very well, Sober Sadie, right? The
Oh,
name that you've
thank
chosen. Yeah, because
you.
that's not something that most people would advertise realize as much, like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm sober, da da da, right? It's like that usually creates a whole slew of questions or taboos or stigmas or
Yeah.
whatever. So it's great that you are actually just putting it right out there. Like, this is me, this is who I
Yes,
am, I'm sober,
absolutely. Well, and it's
and I'm
funny
proud of it.
too. Yes, absolutely, for
Yeah.
sure. Like it's funny too because I wanted to open my account. I opened it on my mom's birthday. And I wanted to open my account for a long time. I didn't really know what name to pick, but then it was just like my mom's birthday. I was just like, you know what? Let's just go with Sober Sadie. That's it. And like it was just like a last minute thing, but I'm so happy that I went with that. Like it's just like
Yeah. I think it's great.
thank
Yeah.
you.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sadie. Thank you
Oh,
for
thank you for
taking the
having me.
time. Yeah, of course. And I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yes, me
And
too.
stay well.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with your family. And
Thank you so much.
you definitely seem like very happy. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, very there's definitely a bright energy coming out of you with where you are in your life right now. So I think that's really inspirational for everyone. So thank
Thank
you
you.
again, Sadie, for being a part of this. And thank you everyone for listening in. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.